Majo, John Madden, in my favorite spot in Xalapa, standing on a bridge overlooking the Xalapa River. I think that's Santa Ana Church over there, and the mountains that surround all of Xalapa, really. And I'm going to follow up on my first video about smoking with one of the reasons why I smoke. And I'm going to frame it intentionally in what many people will find totally outrageous terms, but I think is absolutely my truth. Smoking helps. It's a tool for me to come back to God. Yeah, it's true. I knew a bunch of macrobiotics friends in Syracuse 40 years ago, and they follow really rigid diets. And they almost all smoked some of the time, a few cigarettes a day. And I was struggling against my lifetime craving for cigarettes, which I've totally surrendered to recently because I know I do better when I have them. I said, why? How can that be? And they said, well, smoking is yang, tobacco. The herb tobacco, the natives know it, is very yang. It brings you back to center when you're too dispersed, too spread out, too yin. Boom, it brings you back into your body and into the present moment. And that's true for me. What stimulated all this morning was I came up here to my favorite spot, and I started with the intention of grounding myself, listening to Spirit. What shall I say from this sacred spot today? And instead, I got all deep in the weeds with an article online about National Public Radio, which I'm devoted to. And I was just down that wormhole for about 5 minutes. And when I came out of it, I said, why didn't you have a cigarette? If you had had a cigarette, you'd have cleared your mind, you'd have stopped thinking, and you'd have been present. Here you're so far away from actually knowing what you want to say. Yeah. I tend to be a busy, intense guy with like 200 to-dos all the time. I've learned to relate to them in a much more flowing way, and I use a terrific app called TickTick, which is Apple's app of the year, and it's really great. That helps. But still, I can get overextended really easy. When I smoke, I don't do anything else. It's a sacred act for me. Set aside everything else. Don't read, don't listen to podcasts, nothing. And when I first went to the mountains, when the COVID hit Asheville, North Carolina 4 years ago, March of 2020, I got so calm in the mountains. And I used to say out there that I had this cockamamie theory that cigarette tobacco smoke would anesthetize my brain so I would lose the capacity to form human words. And I'm a writer. My words preoccupy me all the time. But sure enough, 2 drags of a cigarette, and I couldn't hear myself think. There were no words. And I learned that if I leaned into that, it could last. It could last for half an hour or longer. And that is happening more and longer for me all the time. And usually it's kicked off by a cigarette. Stops me in my tracks. My old teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, did not recommend that we smoke, but he recommended that we stop. He said, break your momentum as you're walking across the room. Just stop and see what bubbles up. That's how you come back to God, is to stop what you're doing, pull out of all the activity, and wait for mindfulness, wait for some connection with the present moment. So next time you see someone smoking and you're inclined to say, ew, why is that stupid person still doing that? Don't we know better now? And I hear even smart people on air, I think Stephen Colbert or somebody I really like said, you know, we all know now not to smoke. No, we don't. No, we don't. Working class people smoke. And they may not all be artists. They may not all be real yin people like me, but they need their little crutch. Something they can control. Oh yeah, the old guy from church that popped up out of the blue yesterday, and I was referring to him as so annoying. One of the most annoying things he said was, I'm not going to give money to homeless people. They can afford their damn cigarettes. So clueless, so judgmental, so not willing to walk a mile in their moccasins. People who are homeless have almost nothing they can control. They get their stuff stolen, they get rolled, they're prey to the weather. And one thing they can control is that cigarette, choosing when to light up. And to judge them for that is not only cruel, it's sick. It's sick. And judgmentalness is an illness. It separates us from others. So every chance you get when you notice a judgmental thought is, I was walking across from my home to my office in downtown Syracuse 40 years ago, and realized that as I went through this beautiful park, so many people I passed, I had a critical judgment of them. And I realized it's almost like I'm saying they don't have a right to live, like they're not valid, there's something wrong with them. And I started playing with it by saying, let's let them live. Today, let's let them live. Because it's that kind of viciousness. Judging others is a vicious process. You're making yourself one up. I'm superior, I know better. It's toxic. It makes you sick. What is it they say, that to hold a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other people to die? Well, judgments are like that. It's like a little grudge. So when you observe yourself doing it, I still observe myself doing it. It's in our programming. The ego wants to do that. But I make fun of it. Yeah, I make fun of it. I say, oh yeah, wow, look what a loser they are, Tease myself. Because don't judge yourself over judging. That just makes the whole thing worse. Be gentle in the process. But start noticing and seeing if you can, little by little, let it go. Okay.